Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. A lot of people who've heard me speak in public, and certainly who are participants in the Strategic Coach Program, know that I had a very, very important day in my life, and it was August 15th in 1978. So I was 34 years old, and I was both divorced and bankrupt on the same day. I didn't plan it that way, it's just the timing worked out. I make jokes about it now because it's funny 40 years later, but it wasn't funny at the time. So I got the divorce in the morning. You know, the papers were signed, and this was the beginning of the divorce. It wasn't the final papers, because where I lived in Toronto in the 1970s, you were first of all separated, and then 3 years later, you couldn't live with your separated spouse for 3 years before they would actually give you official divorce papers. But the divorce, as far as I was concerned, the separation was really the divorce. And then the bankruptcy, that was basically because of receivables. I was coaching one-on-one in those days, and all of a sudden I hit a period where instead of paying in 30 days, clients were paying in 60 days and sometimes 90 days, and I just ran out of cash. And it's one reason why in the 1980s, as soon as we could, we established a no receivables policy for my individual coaching, and then it's always been the policy for the program, is that all the money's up front. Since 1984, I have had no receivables, and it really simplifies your life as an entrepreneur when you had no receivables. And the reason why I insisted on that is that you can be doing really good work, you can be creating great value for other people, but if they have the possibility of not paying you when you're expecting to get paid, you can go bankrupt, and that's really what happened. But I want to tell you, in many ways, I think this is the second most important day of my entire life, okay? And I'm not including birth there, because most people make a joke about that. I take birth as a given, you know, I'm here. But the reason why it's so important, I'll tell you what the single most important day is, but the second most important day is the day that I had these two failures, and I treat them really as failures, and I kind of treat them as really, really bad report cards. Like I flunked the course for a relationship, and I flunked the course for being an entrepreneur and actually having a viable business. And I can remember very clearly the 3 or 4 months after August, I had this feeling that how I handled that day and these two experiences was going to determine the quality and the success for the rest of my life. Okay, just very, very clear feeling. So in some ways, there was enormously more clarity in my thinking about the importance of what I'd just been through afterwards than I had ever had in my life before that day. And I said the reason why both of those happen is because I was really stupid, and that I wasn't learning the right things about having a marriage and a lifetime relationship with someone. I hadn't learned the proper approach to that. I didn't have the right mindsets. I didn't have the right capabilities. And the same thing goes for actually having my own business. And what I mean when I say that is that I relieved every single other person who may have been involved in either of those two situations from all responsibility. I said, if I'm going to learn anything from these two situations that turns out really positive, that really represents a breakthrough, I have to take 100% responsibility, and they're off the hook. So, you know, in regard to my wife that I had just divorced, she wasn't responsible for this. So I couldn't blame her for anything, because if you're blaming, you don't have the power to actually do something to improve. And I said that regardless of what bad thing happens to you, you have to take 100% responsibility for the go forward, because otherwise you're giving your power away to something that you have no control over. So I brought back all the responsibility. And the big thing about this was I decided that it had taken me a long time learning how to fail. I just said probably it took me 25 years to learn how to fail in my marriage, and it probably took me 25 years. I don't know why I came up with 25, but 25 was it, which means that I was around 9 years old. And I said, the reason why I'm failing happened from bad mindsets and bad habits and insufficient skills that I developed over the last 25 years. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself 25 years to turn this around. So by the time I'm 59, I will have completely transformed these two experiences into totally successful ways of being married and totally successful ways of being an entrepreneur. And to facilitate this 25 years and the keeping of my mind focused on this activity, I started writing a journal. And the only activity that I had to commit to was that every day over the next 25 years, so this was from the end of 1978 to the end of 2003, that I would write in the journal what I wanted. So I had to write down, I want this, and I had to write, I want this without using the word because I felt that the reason why I was getting into trouble is that I was always justifying what I wanted in my life, and that ended up in a bad marriage and it ended up in a bad business venture. So when I got to the end of the year in 2013, I remember I went out to New Year's Eve dinner, and I told them, I said, I'm completing a 25-year project. And I can tell you that in 25 years, there are 9,131 days, including 6 leap days. There are 6 leap years in 25 years. And except for 12 of those days out of 9,131, I wrote in a journal something that I wanted. And I think that so much of what represents the Strategic Coach program, where we ask people to state what they want and to actually visualize what they want, but to not say, I want this because, but you just want it because you want it. And that's clearly expressed in our book, which is called Wanting What You Want. And I think it was that resolve in 1978 to take 100% responsibility for the 2 failures, which has led to 2 incredible successes. One of them, the Strategic Coach company, the Strategic Coach program with our wonderful team, our wonderful coaches, and our wonderful clients. And the other one, which is actually the single most important day in my life, which was August 13th, so almost the same calendar day, but it was August 13th, 1982, when I first met Babs. And that began just a marvelous, wonderful business relationship and life relationship with Babs. So it's very, very important for me to stress that when bad things happen to you, you can turn them into the most important days, most important events of your life. And this was certainly the case for me, of being both divorced and bankrupt on the same day on August 15th, 1978.